America's Cold War with Russia drove human innovation forward for almost half a century. From the rocket technology that sent men to the moon to unlocking the secrets of the atom that promised untold destruction as well as unlimited power. If you were a scientist at the time, including application for military use on your research grant proposal was almost a guaranteed carte blanche from the US government. With so many projects in development at once, it was inevitable that there would be a lack of oversight on some of the less than ethical experiments. Specifically, one that was approved in 1953 to explore the effect of various mind-altering substances and techniques on living human subjects with the aims of psychological manipulation and behavior modification. The experiments were carried out not just on military black sites, but also with the help of numerous top-tier US universities. For 20 years, horrific experiments were performed on not only a number of unsuspecting US citizens, but citizens of other countries as well. This case file, the theorists take a trip and fall into Project MK Ultra.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing, case file 85? 84?
Yeah.
Yeah, 84. MK Ultra.
On control.
Fucking
You're gonna give
coolest.
some people a heart attack and they're gonna say, "Oh, did I skip one?"
Yeah, well. No, you didn't. I'm a fucking idiot.
It wouldn't be the first time we messed that up, so.
You know what, though? This is the
Or
first
like
show
the second
I've...
time. That's like,
Oh, no,
I
this
don't
is
know
the-
how many times we've done that.
I fucked that up just about every episode, every case file. I'm back on the beers.
Me
drinking
too.
during the show.
Me too.
I
Great.
curbed that, and I had a beer already. I'm on my second beer. It's delicious. I'm not quite at a point where I'm gonna smoke and do the show yet, though, because as everyone knows, cannabis is now legal here in Canada. Maybe in the future.
I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to see it try. We'll try it on after hours first, because I don't know if you could.
Give it the test
Function.
run.
I think I'd rather do it the next time we can do one in person. So it'd be
Okay.
funnier.
That would be funnier for sure.
Fuck. I get shit from Zell all the time for saying and too much, and I'm very conscious trying to curb them.
Just
So,
say
like, catch
in your
myself doing
head
it.
when you're thinking.
I can't. It's got to be a vocal
You
noise.
can't do it.
Can't do it.
Now everybody's going to be listening for it. Now that you said it. Now you
Yeah.
need to be even more conscious.
No, I know. That's why I said it, to try to like push myself to not do it as much anymore.
Maybe in one of the Patreon only things, I'm going to do a cut with just all your ums in the episode, shrunk
Ooh,
down
yeah.
to see how long they are.
Supercut. Mm.
Me and Dan said we should release a case file that's just an hour of us going, check, check, check,
Yeah,
sound
now
check.
our sound checks.
All the sound checks.
1,
from
2, testes.
Testes.
1, 2.
That'd be pretty funny. We probably could. There's probably enough for one full case file of just.
Oh, you can make it work.
I don't know how well. Maybe we'll release it on April 1st or something.
Just a mega dump of horrible podcasts.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
All
We pretty much
all
Everything,
released
this junk.
everything
Everyone
from
would-
the cutting room floor.
No, we pretty much release everything we do now. So I can't remember the last time we did one and we were like, nah.
I think the only podcast I haven't released is the first one we ever did. Before Alien Theorists and before What's the Meaning of This? We did one podcast. It was me, you, and Cass, and I couldn't put it out because we talked about some stuff like that can't get out in public.
Oh yeah, no. We
Absolutely not.
probably fucking Gossip Girls going on.
Oh yeah, we talked about some shit.
Yeah, well, fuck that.
Other than that, though, it's all on Patreon. It's all
We'll leave that one on the floor. Let's get into some. Oh, first off, where in the world is Mr.
Mr.
Conspiracy. He's
Where is
in
he?
Brisbane. He's in
Shit.
Australia.
He's already up in Brisbane now?
Yeah.
Yeah, he bought a van. Listen to this. And he now listens to the podcast.
So he's catching up
He's
all,
up to like
catching
case
up on all
file
the shit.
40. Yeah, he every now and then he'll message me. He's like, you know what you guys said about me on this one? I'm like, no, dude. I don't know. And then he'll tell me and I'll like laugh. I'm like, that's pretty funny. He goes, all right. I see how it is.
That's hilarious.
He bought a van. He bought a van while he's down there that he was going to camp around in. It was going to be his conspiracy van. If you follow him on Instagram, he threw some stickers on it. He bought that van 2 weeks ago. He's planning to sell the van. I was like, why the fuck did you buy it? I haven't been able to get a hold of him to ask him what the hell he's doing, but
Yeah,
I have a feeling Mr. Conspiracy is starting to run dry on the conspiracy funds.
conspiracy
A
love.
van, a conspiracy van. For how long are you gonna stay? And you bought a whole van.
So he had
Wait, I think
he
he
had
was
a
buying a
mystery
live in a
machine?
van.
He had a mystery machine? Or he
Yeah,
has
did
one?
have
you
a
go
mystery
around the
machine.
outback solving mysteries.
Oh,
Get yourself a dingo.
I'm going to get that girl to make us a Mr. Conspiracy's mystery machine, and I'll get it printed on a magnetic logo, and I'll send it to him, and then he can put it on the side of his fucking van. That'd be great. Also, the t-shirts. If go to our website or TeePublic, look up Alien Theorists Theorizing. We got ton of shirts now.
We got swag.
Shirts galore. We
Yeah,
got
lots
swag.
of shirts. Lots of cool shirts.
And make sure if you're buying them, send us a picture. Send us a picture of you wearing the shirts. I've seen a couple, but no one wearing them yet. They've just sent a picture of like, here's my shirts. They're laying on my bed.
Put that bitch on.
Cool.
Yeah, put it
Yeah,
on.
dude, we
Rep
want to
it.
see you styling and profiling.
Other
Swag.
than that, anyone else got anything before we want to get going on the business at hand? I guess I got to do space news. Forgot I hadn't done that yet. NASA certifies SpaceX's Falcon 9 to launch its top missions. The Falcon 9 now boasts NASA's top reliability rating.
Awesome.
Dope.
I know, that was pretty cool.
Dude, Falcon 9 is such a cool rocket name.
Oh,
Like
oh,
that's
fuck.
Falcon 9. Like it's so cool.
When's the Falcon Heavy supposed to be going?
Oh, that's even cooler rocket name. The Falcon Heavy.
Falcon Heavy.
Like, when the Falcon 9 is not enough, bring in the Falcon Heavy.
It always delivers its payload.
Until it
So that was
blows up.
kind of cool. It's good news for SpaceX.
Those guys have been killing it for the last 7 years. Just better and better all the time.
Yeah, the two-stage Falcon 9 has now been certified as a Category 3 rocket. That's the categorization needed to handle expensive or sensitive missions, such as the launch of the Hubble Space Telescope and the Mars Curiosity rover. So
Ooh.
any high, real expensive or dangerous missions or shit that's got to get to space, it's going up on that Falcon Heavy.
Falcon
9.
Falcon Heavy.
In a time.
Okay, well, this is
Yeah, I got remember when we talked about the Oumuamua about a year ago?
Oh yeah, I was going to talk about this too.
Oumuamua.
The Oumuamua
Oumuamua.
interstellar asteroid? Or what? They don't really know what it is because this doesn't really fit any other space terms. It's not really a comet, it's not really an asteroid. It doesn't really follow like a gravitational route. And scientists at Harvard think that it could have been an alien spaceship. We've been saying it since the start, but it just came out.
no one gives a shit. When we talked about it,
news.
When we talk
Yeah,
about it,
already
no one
said
gives a
it.
shit. When
We're on
Harvard
top
says
of
it's an
it.
alien, everyone freaks out. It gets shared a million times, but they think
someone
it
from Harvard listens to our
I
podcast and
published
steals
a
it.
peer-reviewed article and put it in a thing, whatever. But it's from Harvard.
it's from Harvard.
Harvard.
Yeah, but it's back in the news. Oumuamua thinks it could be some type of solar sail from an alien planet, like some type of alien drone, perhaps, because the way it accelerated through our solar system and stuff didn't fit with any other heavenly body that moves through space.
It sped up when it left too, which is it's not unusual but it's normally comets do it all the time. They like get propelled by evaporating gases, but Umanuma isn't a comet, so they're not really sure why.
Yeah, it shows no
It's been
gas ejection.
Yeah, if it were using a solar sail or something like that, it's like the radiation from the sun, and like that's how a solar sail works, is catching radiation against like a particle fabric, and then it pushes it solar sail.
It's dope.
So if it was accelerating a little bit faster with no real, I mean, you couldn't see it. Probably if it were using a solar sail, I don't think you'd really be able to see it like too well.
No, I don't think it'd be like, it wouldn't be defined enough from the object itself to really know if it was a sail.
Yeah. So it could very well be Interstellar Traveler. Is it a?
We
will we have visitors soon?
We said aliens first, motherfuckers.
Yeah,
we said it
We're
first.
here first.
Aliens. Oumuamua. Aliens. That's all I got on that.
That was my second thing of space news too, so I didn't have much. There is I know everyone beats me for these, but the sun is finally, we've had a spotless sun for so long, but there's finally activity on the sun's surface again. So aurora season is upon us.
That's dope.
So if you're anywhere where you can see them, you'll probably be seeing them sooner than later.
And I got one more piece of space news here. If anyone knows anything about Enceladus, one of Saturn's moons, NASA signed an agreement in September with the Foundation to support initial studies for a privately funded mission or potentially habitable moon of Saturn. So that's the one all the scientists say that has the best chance to harbor life in our solar system. But no one, we haven't got to do a lot of research there, so we're sending in something private, non-NASA, they say. So that's so cool.
Fuck those liars.
Always lying about
Cover
shit.
up the truth.
Covering up, doctoring images, erasing the moon landing footage. Like, what else can they do? Send in a private team. That's the only way you know if you're getting the real shit. Though I don't think everyone at NASA is hiding everything, but I'm sure there's been a few people to, a little doctor this, doctor that. That's all I got for space news. Dan?
I said on my space news, is the only thing on my docket.
Well, let's get in. Let's fire up the Randomatron X3 and see what it pumps out for us this time.
All right, and we're thinking at it right now.
Creepy story.
Dun 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 dun. This is story by Lil Mama.
Little Mama?
Lil Mama.
Lil Mama.
Lil Mama posted back in 2017. The sound. My boyfriend, now husband, decided to go on a road trip to my dad's hunting cabin in northern West Virginia. Mountain Mama, take me home. Country roads, West Virginia. Next, just to a few counties over from Point Pleasant. We packed all our gear into our truck the night before so we could get an early start the next morning. We rise and shine extra early because we couldn't contain our excitement. Our trip to the cabin goes fine. We reach the town that the cabin is near and load up on groceries. About an hour later, we are turning down the dirt road toward the cabin. Now the cabin is about 50 miles back in the boondocks, away from any kind of civilization. It's very isolated and creepy at times. We drive down the dirt road for whatever We drive down the dirt road for what seems like forever. Then we finally see the cabin. Both of us are tired from the trip and plan on relaxing by the fireplace and watching some DVDs. As soon Divids. I don't know how to pronounce Divids. Divids.
That's it.
As soon as the bag and groceries are unpacked, we get everything inside and I start dinner while my boyfriend, let's call him Neil, plan on gathering some fire. Like, that's the worst fake name ever. Like,
Let's call him Neil.
let's call him Nia. Plans on gathering some firewood out back. By 7-something, the sun is setting. We make sure all the doors and windows are locked. It's a small 1-bedroom cabin, so there was maybe 5 windows and 2 doors. This will be important later. After we clean up, we decide to watch Catch Me If You Can on Divid, so nothing scary. I reach for my cigarette only to find my pack empty. I ask Neil where the carton was we just got, and he tells me in the truck and asks if I want him to go get him. I tell him no, that I will, and I slip on my shoes and make my way to the door. Now, I have always been scared of the dark and hate going outside in the dark for as long as I can remember. I turn back to Neil and ask him if he will stand at the front door while I go to the truck. He says yes and makes his way over. I ease outside and down the steps to the truck. I was reaching in to get the carton of cigarettes when I hear this sound. At first, it sounded like a woman screaming. Then it changed to a howling. Ow! Then it was like those sounds came together to form this one creepy sound. Honestly, it's hard to explain. It just sounded like a demon and a werewolf all in one. I make a beeline for the cabin, and I see Neil's face fully drained of color. I push him inside and ask him what the hell was that. It took him a while to answer me, and he said, I don't know. I've been in the woods hunting and fishing with my dad and brothers all my life, and I have never heard any animal sound like that before, I told him. Then we hear it again, only it's near the living room window, and Neil makes a mad dash to the bedroom to get his pistol, and I get my dad's hunting rifle from the closet. I had never been so scared in all my life. I thought, what if this thing tries to come in here and we hear it again at the front door? I take aim at the door. My tiny hands were shaking, thinking, oh my God, please help us. I'm maybe a 5'4" female, but I was going to unleash hell on this thing if it tried to step foot inside. Then it screamed again. Ow! Only it wasn't at the door anymore. It was at the kitchen window. Neil and I stood back to back with our guns at the ready. Then we heard a crunching sound, like metal being destroyed. We were too scared to move. Finally, after an hour of standing like that and not hearing anything else, we eased over to the kitchen window to look and see if we could spot anything. Neil, being taller than me, looked first and said, oh my God, it ripped a hole in my truck. I looked out the window to see a huge hole ripped in the door. We then double-checked every window and door to make sure they were locked, and we stayed up all night listening, scared that that thing would come back. Morning came, and we decided to inspect the truck. Neil went out first with his pistol by his stand, and I had the hunting rifle at the ready. We get to the truck, and there were claw marks from the tail light to the passenger door, and then a huge hole like this thing had punched it. We go back inside and call the forest ranger. He comes out about 3 hours later, looks at our truck, and then tells us that in the last 6 months, 12 people have gone missing from this area, and the farms that are all close have reported the same sounds we had during the night. And the next morning, the farm finds their animals either gone or gutted. He told us it would be wise to clear out until they could find the animal responsible for all this. He looked scared and pale himself. He said he didn't want to be up here a long period of time, but he would wait for us to pack things and follow us to the main road. We didn't need to be told twice. We tossed our stuff in the truck and flew down the dirt road. When we made it to the main road, we thanked him and went on our way. To my knowledge, they have never found any animal, thing, person, nothing that was doing those things in those woods, and we have never been back there and never will. We didn't see whatever it was, and I'm glad we didn't, but I do know that no animal was making those noises and could do that kind of damage to a truck. Not even a bear.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Not a bear, eh?
Not a bear.
So is it Bigfoot?
Not a bear.
Is it a Bigfoot?
Bigfoot, maybe. This sounds like a.
There have been Bigfoot sightings in West Virginia, but I don't know. Sounds more closer to could be a mountain lion.
Yeah, but
You know?
what's punching a hole in the truck? What kind of truck you got? Fucking cardboard truck?
Yeah,
When they say punch a hole in the truck, like through the window, or like
like it punched it. Or...
To me, it sounds like the door, like
through the metal.
like through the metal.
right. I mean, I
Hmm.
don't know why it would scratch those doors. I could see a mountain lion getting onto the property and like hanging around the house. Maybe that time. I don't know, but maybe the claw marks too would explain the claw marks. But punching a hole in it, not sure about that.
I don't know, dude. I've been in the woods lots, and like when there's animals, like I'm never really scared of animals. I see lots of bears. I've seen a cougar in the woods before, and you're never like. It's that unknown, man. That deep fear you get from the unknown. That's the worst.
That's the scariest part.
That's the scariest part. Is like you don't know what it is. Like, and like
Could
that-
be anything.
yeah, and that shit. Like you get like I've had it once in the woods with Mr. Conspiracy. We like. It was like went on for like 10 minutes. I was terrified. I was like, "Oh God, get me the fuck out of these woods."
That's
No.
the worst. It's the worst when you hear something, or you think you hear something, but you can't see it, and you're like you like your hair stands up, and you're just kind of like waiting for it,
Yeah,
waiting for something, even though it's probably nothing. Your body's like, could be something. On guard, let's go.
Well, what is it? We're called? We're apex predators, but like I think we're also like apex prey. Like we're the fucking hardest to prey on. Like we get fucking like sixth sense when like bad shit's around. You get that intuition, like gut feeling, like that. That's fucking real. Like, care what anyone says. Like you get that sometimes. You get that bad feeling. Like turn away, go do something else.
Yeah, if you get that feeling, trust your gut, because
Always trust the gut.
trust the gut. Huh. Cool.
Interesting one.
Cool little story. Little some type of car punching Bigfoot.
Really doesn't like trucks.
Hates him.
No, fucking. This thing's not Ford tough.
Bitch.
All right, let's get to task at hand. MK Ultra. Can I say first off
Sure.
the fucking coolest name for a government project?
Has to be MK Ultra.
I wonder where they got the name. Cuz before MK Ultra, like MK Ultra started in 1953, but like earlier, like they were still doing everything they were doing in MK Ultra, but they called it Project Artichoke or Operation Artichoke.
Lame.
And yeah, terrible. And basically, I guess, they started Project Artichoke in 1951, and around 53, they were having a meeting, and someone's like, I don't get the artichoke reference. And someone's like, yeah, it's kind of shitty. And they're like, some like guys like smoking a cigar in the corner, like dimly lit. And he goes, MK Ultra. And they're like, oh yeah.
Well, the
Let's fucking do it.
MK is just a digraph. Like it's just I don't think that has any like significant meaning. It's just like two letters put together, MK. But then Ultra in World War II was the top secret classification in World War II.
Oh.
Like Ultra, that's like the top of the top. So as far as I could find, that was like above top secret. Like that's ultra secret, the most secret classification.
The most secretest of secrets.
Dan, do you want to lead us off on MK Ultra? What's
It's
all
the
this
craziest thing.
ultraness about? What's this about?
So, Project MK Ultra was a secret project run by the CIA, and MK Ultra is kind of like a broad umbrella that really covers, I think somewhere around, they said like 80 to 100 to 160 different projects that the CIA was experimenting with from about 1953 until 1973. So about 20 years. In the 1950s and 60s, the United States government was afraid that Soviet and Chinese and North Korean agents were using mind control to brainwash U.S. prisoners in the war in Korea, because they were having these POWs come back from Korea, and they were denouncing the West, and they were talking about how, communism is going to win. And so this really, put the put the Secret Service on their heels, and we're like, something's weird going on here. So Alan Dulles, who was the director of CIA at the time, approved the project MK Ultra in 1953, and its aim was going to develop techniques or substances that could be used against Soviet enemies to try and control or modify human behavior with drugs or other psychological manipulators. So any type of
electroshock,
enhanced interrogation, whatever you want to call it. So like electroshock, drugs, paralytics, anything they could pretty much think of off the top of the head. And this project went on to involve, they say, more than 150. So 150 is probably a good round, but there was plenty of other stuff going on within MK Ultra. And so it wasn't just the CIA doing the experimenting. They kind of contracted the work out to other places. So these experiments didn't just happen in some like secret CIA black site. Sure, there were some that probably happened there, but a lot of these experiments and tests were conducted at universities, hospitals,
crazy
prisons, and not just in the US, but also in Canada.
Fucking with us too up here.
Big time.
Big time.
So we have the CIA chemist and poison expert, Sidney Gottlieb. And he was kind of the first who got on with the idea that they could use the power, or they could harness the power of LSD and its mind-altering properties. And they could use this for, for things to like brainwashing or psychological torture. You could send someone on a bad trip and really screw up their brain, which is completely possible. But they thought they could use this as a type of way to kind of persuade people, or they could use it as like, I think most of this was kind of looking for the perfect truth serum, like getting somebody to tell you what you want to know, or get them to do what you want them to do without having to kind of, you're looking for that magic key, to just open up the brain.
No repercussions of doing it.
No repercussions. Right.
People wouldn't remember or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So the CIA began to funnel money into studies at places like Columbia University, Stanford, and other colleges that tested the effects of the drug. And so MK Ultra didn't just mess with LSD. They were all into all the party drugs. They were into MDMA, ecstasy, mescaline, heroin, barbiturates, methamphetamine, and psilocybin,
and
magic mushrooms.
I also had written down here forced morphine addiction, and then forced withdrawal after.
That was a big one.
Pretty much everything they could think of, they were trying to do and see how it affected the brain.
Yeah. There are other ones. We talked about it on one of the other. I think we covered it in one of ATT Confidentials, but I'll just briefly mention it. The best name for a CIA operation. Braden, you know what it is?
Operation Midnight Climax.
Hell yeah!
Fucking 100%.
Besides MK Ultra, that is the best operation name. It's Operation Midnight Climax. It's like a great.
Sel, do you know anything about Midnight Climax?
Is this like a?
Before you guess, just from the name alone, what do you think that would involve?
Okay, I remember reading something about it, but I don't really remember what it was. Is it something with creating sex slaves?
You're on the right. Maybe.
Probably.
Because it was like they brought people into like a brothel or something, and then they would feed them large sums of LSD, something like that.
Got it.
And lock them in a room, and then they'd be like, "You can't tell anyone because you were here to bang hookers."
He had just blackmail them.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, that was one of them. That was one of the operations that this whole MK Ultra kind of spawned out, and this one was one of the less controlled ones. Operation Midnight Climax kind of got away from them. It was had very little oversight, and even the CIA agents who were involved admitted that it was just like a freewheeling party atmosphere. These dudes were just doing whatever they wanted, which is, tons of government provided drugs that you could just go nuts. And they were living in San Francisco at the time. So, these guys were just, living it up.
Government sponsored drugs and sex
Yeah.
Yeah.
to see how it affected your mind.
I don't know. Well, they did do some tests if like interrogation techniques worked better, like pre, post, or even sometimes during coitus. So like fucking wild, man. You run in the room like while some people are getting it on. You're like, tell me everything. And you're like,
dosing you with LSD while you're getting it on, just like,
That's so messed up.
There's all kinds of crazy stuff that happens in your brain during sex. So, that could be, but I don't think that would be like the best time to interrogate a person. Or maybe, you know what? Yeah, probably would. You're naked, you're vulnerable. That probably is the best place. Best time.
Yeah, you're fucking high and you didn't remember taking drugs.
Yeah.
100%. You'd be fucking freaking out.
I'll tell you anything you want to know.
So many of these fucking, this shit is like, honestly, it's so crazy because so many of these tests, including drugs and stuff, they did without people's consent. Like they would just drug people
Tons of times.
Mm-hmm.
and like lots of times in like in Canada, this was a little bit, I think, just a precursor during Project Artichoke. Out of UBC and like there's like it's called the Hollywood Hospital in Vancouver. There was like a Dr. James Tyhurst and a couple other guys that would they got contracts by the CIA to run these tests, and they would just like drug patients, and like someone would come, they were psychiatrists, and people would come in and be like, I'm depressed, and he's like, I've got this new study that's going to work perfect. And they just fucking give them drugs, give them morphine to see if they could like induce mind control and like hypnotize these people to like do their bidding, like my Manchurian Candidate shit. Like they just test on patients, like, and these people didn't have any idea that they were going to be drugged, or like they had not a clue.
Yeah. And you'd think like the scientists are working on here are like crackpot dudes. Like, no, these guys were
Top end.
like globally recognized psychiatrists, like top of their field guys. And you gotta kind of, I don't know, some part of me kind of sympathizes with them because you're like, government blank check to do whatever I want on crazy experiments. Well, yeah. Like if I were a scientist, just pure scientist, you'd be like, well, yeah, get at it. But yeah, another one that was in Canada is the story about Ewan Cameron, who is a Scottish psychiatrist, and he worked in Canada in the 1950s, and he had the kind of theory to see if you could corrupt someone's mind and make them act in specific ways. So they were trying to figure out ways to make people, you could break apart their personality, just shatter them, and then you can make them do whatever you want. And his experiments had things like electroshock therapy, drug-induced sleep, injections of massive doses of LSD, and more. Just a bunch of things. I mean, you'd have things where people would get, they'd get injected with some sort of sleep-inducing drug, like barbiturates or something, and they knock them out, and then they jolt them awake with like amphetamines and stuff, and then would just keep doing that over and over and over again until your brain just breaks. Most of the documents and stuff that people have found, there wasn't really much success in that. A lot of the people, and some of these people, like we said, they would go into these places, these hospitals, or they'd go into some places where asylums, mental health institutions, like they'd go in there for just like anxiety disorder.
Right.
Or something, something that's could be treated pretty simply. And then they would end up getting, your entire brain wiped. Basically, you wouldn't even, some of these people that were tested on, were experimented on, at the end of it, they couldn't even perform basic tasks.
Their brain turned to mush, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of cases of that.
And it's crazy because not only are these guys like not crackpots, but like I can't remember if it's James Tyhurst or Ewan Cameron. One of them became like the top like director of like the Canadian like psychiatric union or whatever the fuck it was called. I can't remember the name now.
Right.
But like they were like the fucking big dogs. They were heads of these organizations. They weren't just some fucking random like crazy haired guy in the back alley they found.
No, this is top end talent here working on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that this isn't that long after World War II, and the Nazis were known to be experimenting on the same type of stuff. Maybe not with LSD, but on like mind control and brainwashing tactics. And I couldn't find I didn't have enough time to really get any hard evidence, but how many of those scientists that came over in Operation Paperclip, which we haven't really done a case file on yet, but that's pretty much the Americans and the Soviets taking the spoils of the Nazi war party, like the scientist portion, and this, don't worry about what you did, just keep doing your research for us now. And I just wonder how much of that actually came from the Nazis to start with. Like where this project, like all the knowledge they got from whatever Nazi scientists came over. Do you think that's what started? Like, okay, they were onto something, but they didn't get a chance to finish, and then MK Ultra comes in for 20 years with the same scientists.
Oh, I found my note. It was Cameron, Ewan Cameron. He became the president. Oh my God. Okay, he became the president of the Canadian Psychiatric Association. He also became the president of the American Psychiatric Association, and then while he was in the midst of Project Artichoke and getting into MK Ultra, doing all the shit, he was named the president of the World Psychiatric Association.
Crazy.
While he's drugging the shit out of people. In the same book, I just have a couple excerpts from this book. Patients were subjected to sensory deprivation for up to 65 days or put into comas for weeks of drugged sleep.
Wow.
Yeah, they're really interested in trying to induce amnesia. Like they were really interested in trying to get that, like being able to have someone like forget a certain period of time and just kind of have their brain just kind of wipe it. And either just like a forced amnesia where they would think back, but they just wouldn't remember it, So, I mean, basically you'd have missing time. But just having people to be able to do that, they really wanted psychic mind slaves. Like these people, they really wanted an operative, a spy who could, you'd act completely normal, but then they would go and do something like you'd call them and program them with a certain phrase or image or something you could show them. They would act completely normal. No one would be able to tell the difference that they had changed, but they would go out and perform a specific task and then come back and they wouldn't even remember that they had done it. Which is super creepy.
It's insane. Like, so I guarantee that it started with the Nazis. They took these scientists in Operation Paperclip and they just continued on with this like way to fracture someone's mind into being like dissociative. That's pretty much the theory behind it. Like if you can cause enough trauma on the brain, it's a human condition to like fracture your brain, like become dissociative.
You regress, yeah.
You become dissociative and you have like a different personality, and that personality can then be controlled by the handler of whoever's doing this to you. And that personality is completely separate from your main front, like your normal person. But if they can encode these code words and show them like, all right, go witness this conversation, memorize it perfectly, come back, recite it word for word, and then forget it. Like that's what that's one of the things they're trying to do. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were fairly successful in some people.
A couple of people said I think people involved with the MK Ultra project were they said that the Manchurian Candidate, like the book, was actually something that set them back. They considered it a setback because they were like, it showed a seemingly simple, a simple concept. They're like, oh, it seemed like something that could be plausible, that you could take a person, create false memories or amnesia, and then give them an idea, and then you'd be able to program them with this thing, and then they would go do stuff. And it seemed plausible. Like the book just did a really good job of doing that. But then when they got into it and they got into all this stuff, I think some of them kind of got into and over their heads, and they were like, that, what, this is really hard. I know the sensory deprivation stuff is crazy. I know people do that. They have those sensory deprivation pods. I've never done one. Where you like float in water.
I love them.
All the sound. You've done those before? I've never done one.
Honestly, I could see how you would use that for some type of mind control, because when you go into that thing and you're floating in there and there's no sound, you have earplugs in, and you're just floating weightless in this like salt water, it gives you like an eerie, it's like almost like a different dimension. Like you close your eyes and like when you're in there, you can concentrate so hard on on anything. And that's with like a mind, that's just me in my mind, trying to experiencing something. But if you have, say you've been broken from this mind control and then put into these tanks and like given drugs, I can only imagine like the outcome of what you would experience in something like that.
And put in one of those drums for fucking days at a time.
Yeah. I mean, people have, you guys know about that room that they have, I forgot what university, but they have the room that completely blocks off all sound except for what's inside.
It's completely dead, right? There's no echo either.
Yeah. There's no echo. And people will go in there and they can't stay in there for like more than an hour, or like less than an hour, because they're like, it's just creepy. Like it's just, there's no sound. And all you hear is your own body and how many sounds it makes.
You hear like the grinding of cartilage as you move, and like your heartbeat, and like you just your pulse in your ears
pumping. Yeah. The gut doing whatever it's doing down there, and just like,
that's so weird.
That'd be so crazy.
Yeah. So people can't even stay there for extended period of times. I can't imagine doing it for days on end. And these people were like, they weren't put in nice saltwater things. These people were they'd have their hands wrapped up in like padding. They'd have blindfolds on over their eyes, and then like kind of padding over their ears and everything, and just locked in a little box. So I can't.
Terrifying, man. To be terrifying.
That would break a lot of people just doing that.
And let's not forget that this is like going on out of the public eye, pretty much illegally.
Like, and not pretty much illegally, 100% illegally.
Super illegal.
Well, I'm sure there was some stuff that that wasn't, but for the most part,
there are cases like Ken Kesey, who's the author of the novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and he actually volunteered for some of the MK Ultra experiments that were in LSD when he was a college student at Stanford. So some of these experiments were voluntary. So people volunteered because like what college student's going to be like, you're going to pay me to take drugs? Like, who's going to say no? So a lot of this, Ken Kesey was kind of attributed, or he's kind of, he's the one where they kind of said that he had a bunch of parties. Like they had a bunch of parties, which they called like acid, not acid trips.
Acid Fest.
Like Acid Fest, yeah, Acid Fest 1962, whatever. I don't know, something like that. But these parties, he said, influenced the development of hippie culture, and they said that this kind of kicked off the whole 1960s psychedelic scene. So MK Ultra was responsible for hippies.
In a way, yeah.
And the Grateful Dead.
In a way, for sure.
So there's a lot to be said that this stuff kind of jumped in there. So the story was actually broken by a New York Times journalist, Seymour Hersh, who published a story about how the CIA had conducted these experiments on non-consenting U.S. citizens and things like this. So he published it in 1974. In 1973, before that, the head of the CIA was having all of this stuff burned. Richard Helms was the director of the CIA in 1973, and he ordered that all MK Ultra files be destroyed. So they were burning these things left and right.
Why did they decide to burn them? Was like public pressure to release information about the program, or?
Yeah, there were a couple of committees that had been formed after Watergate.
Right.
After Watergate, they kind of went into people were just getting everybody because they were all concerned about government oversight after all this. And so a bunch of this stuff kind of came out during those hearings. And so then, you get a little piece of this and then people are like, well, what the hell is that? They hadn't. And so as soon as people started kind of digging, Richard Helms was like, no, burn it
all that shit. And you can guarantee because he didn't get it all burnt, but you can guarantee the stuff he burnt first was the worst stuff.
Was the worst, yeah. 100%.
Stuff that has not even, like, we only hear about the LSD trials and like deprivation and hypnosis, but what really went on behind closed doors that was never released is probably just like you couldn't even imagine. I bet.
Of the stuff they burned, what was left was, let's see, in 2004. MK Ultra documents were uploaded from a request from the founder of the Black Vault, John Greenwald, and this is like tens of thousands of pages. The document index itself was 85 pages, so they have a lot of documents that talk about the MK Ultra project,
right?
But like you're saying, like they would probably burn all of the stuff that worked. Like I wouldn't want to, you'd probably want to burn the things. A lot of people said that they burned the stuff that they only left the stuff in that made them look the most incompetent.
I was like, just some drug trials here, guys.
Yeah,
no big
this
deal.
is really stupid. You guys were having crazy sex parties in San Francisco, all hopped up on LSD. Like, oh, what a bunch of idiots. But they probably burned all the really good stuff. That's like, yeah, we did make freaking LSD zombies who can go out and perform assassinations and then come back and completely forget about it.
It's ridiculous too, because this is after World War II. It was fucking. Yeah. They had the Nuremberg trials with all the war crimes about them for all the shit that went on. They essentially made like a code. I can't remember if it's called the Nuremberg Code or the Nuremberg Treaty, where everyone signed.
The Nuremberg trials were the war crime.
Yeah, but I think they made a treaty afterwards. And then it was like, one, required is the voluntary, well-informed, understanding consent of the human subject in a full legal capacity. 2, the experiment should aim at a positive results for a society that cannot be procured in some other way. 3, it should be based on previous knowledge. Example, an expectation derived from animal experiments that justifies the experiment. 4, the experiment should be set up in a way that avoids unnecessary physical and mental suffering and injuries, except in experiments where the experimental physicians also serve as subjects. It should not be conducted when there is any reason to believe that it implies a risk of death or disabling injuries. 6, the risk of experiment should be in proportion to, that is, not exceed the expected humanitarian benefits. 7, preparations and facilities must be provided that adequately protect the subjects against the experiment's risks. And there's a whole bunch more, but essentially everyone signed this in 1949.
Right. And so this is well after this, and they're going against most of those rules.
Yeah, and they knew what they were doing was wrong.
And then instantly they're like, remember those things we came up with? Fuck it.
Yeah.
Drug them all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the CIA probably figured, Soviet Union's doing it, so why don't we do it? We have to be ready. That's always kind of the justification for these kinds of things. If we don't do it, somebody else is going to do it, and then they're going to use it against us. So you always just get, it was really just a product of just that 1950s paranoid mindset that the U.S. had about just like spies and everything that was kind of going on. You're just, all that fear can kind of lead people just to, do Crazy shit.
Crazy shit to their own citizens without them knowing. And with, like,
And they probably thought they were never going to get caught.
probably not at the time.
I mean, if they're like, the government's behind us, they're bankrolling us. They know, we have approval from the highest security clearances. We could do whatever we want, so let's go have crazy sex parties on LSD tripped out in San Francisco.
like, as fun as that part sounds, I mean, most of the people were not experiencing that. They're having their lives ruined. With
Oh, and not only was it non-consenting adults for experiments, they also experimented on their own people.
Oh, this
CIA.
is fucking wild. Yeah,
fed their
forgot about
employees LSD and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, they were dosing some of their employees with LSD.
that. Yeah, it was essentially just a generally accepted risk of going to work in the CIA was like you might get drugged and like examined.
What happened to you this week? Now couple tabs of LSD. No big deal. I made it through.
Bob from accounting? Yeah. You're like, yeah, we spiked his coffee. We're going to go watch him. Want to come?
He jumped out the 10th floor window. Sorry.
Well, yeah, that's what actually happened to Frank Olson,
Yeah.
who was a biological warfare scientist working for the CIA. This guy had gone to a CIA function and a retreat. I guess, and I don't know what CIA agents all go on a retreat, and I don't know what they do on a CIA retreat.
They probably just
to
sit there
relax.
sober and be like, oh, fuck. It's so nice to be sober.
We need a break. Yeah.
This is so weird. But apparently him and a couple other people got dosed with LSD while they were at this retreat. And whether it was intentional or heck, it could have been some weird prank, or some sort of biological warfare hazing, like to work for the CIA. Like, haha, gotcha. Have a nice trip. See you next fall, buddy. This guy, after a few days or like over a week, he jumped out of a window, that 10th floor story window from a CIA hotel.
See ya. I can fly. No.
And though his death is considered a suicide, or that was ruled a suicide, there are at least a couple of theories floating around out there that he was, if you're a biological warfare specialist and you're working for the CIA, you probably know some serious stuff. So some people say that he was threatening to tell the media that the U.S. was using biological weapons in the Korean War, which is big no-no.
They probably were.
He probably could have been doing something like that in the Korean War, but so
They did in the Vietnam War, so what was stopping them in the Korean War?
It's true. Little Agent Orange.
I have no
Agent
idea.
Orange is not biological. That's not a biological weapon, though.
Isn't
It's
it
a
chemical?
deforestation agent.
It's a chemical weapon for sure. He sprayed all over
It's
the
not a weapon. It's for
Yeah, but let me tell you something. It fucks up
deforestation.
people when you spray it on people.
How
And
many-
it
They
fucks.
didn't know that though,
Did they?
or they said they didn't.
They
They
said
they
didn't.
didn't.
They sure sprayed a lot of it.
I'm not saying it was right. I'm just saying that that's what they used it for, is deforestation. It wasn't weaponized. It wasn't used for weapons. It was used for
That's what they tell you.
to clear out things.
As-
And they didn't. I mean, yeah, that's what they tell you.
Good.
So I'm just saying that that's what it was used for, and it's not really like a
Yeah, because
chemical.
the agent.
It's not an aggressive chemical weapon. It's like, it gives you cancer like years after the fact. But it's like, for as far as like a aggressive chemical weapon, it's not like sarin.
Yeah, okay. I guess there's worse.
Is worse, but I mean,
It is
40 years later, there's still millions of people affected by Agent Orange.
Right.
In
There it
Vietnam.
is. And what they did was wrong, and they shouldn't have, you shouldn't use something that you don't know exactly what it is. But yeah, but the use of, biological weapons by a country is definitely not. I mean, we've invaded countries for that. Iraq,
Never found it.
probably Afghanistan. So that kind of stuff. So, this guy was going to come forward, and they were like, well, let's dose him with LSD. We know that it can cause, LSD withdrawal can cause things like paranoia and suicidal thoughts.
Can you get LSD withdrawal?
Yeah, it's the coming down period. We talked about this. Me and Dan were talking about this a while ago.
Because isn't LSD? It's not dopamine. It's serotonin or something. So it's not an addictive thing. It's kind of like mushrooms.
It's not the withdrawal though. It's the effects like when you're coming down off the high.
Yeah, isn't it like? Well, I assume I don't know, but I assume isn't it like ecstasy, where it's like ecstasy dumps all the stuff, and then once afterwards, like you feel super blah because your brain has used up all its natural chemicals and stuff.
I think they're different. I think, well, when you get, because I've done both psilocybin and LSD, and they're very similar in the fact that there is no real effect after, or I didn't feel any personal. But I did MDMA one time at a music festival, and yeah, my dopamine levels were like depleted, and for like 3 or 4 days after, I didn't feel like the same person. Even though I had a great time when I did it, but for like 3 or 4 days after, I just did not feel the same. So I don't know the exact science behind it, but I always feel like psilocybin and LSD are, well, psilocybin for sure. LSD is a different compound kind of, but they don't really, I never really feel like they just like take your mind from you after you're off of them. For most people, I mean, there's always someone who did too much, right? And then,
well, and the thing is, you're talking from experience of probably taking a responsible dose.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true.
You know what I mean? Like this is like, now imagine
I
someone's
don't know
like,
if it was like low dose.
let's see
I
how
think
much
they
we
did
can
a study
fuck this
on
person up.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a super high dose or they were saying that. Responsible dose. Like I don't know if they were telling them, giving them a massive amounts of LSD, or I think we might have talked about like low dose of LSD, like over a long period of time.
Like continued dosage.
Like a week, like a tiny dose, like over a week, like tiny doses over a week, and then stop, and then maybe.
Now, Zell, I'm
that
curious.
causes
I'm curious. Is it one of those things where like when you do it, it's fun, but you're in no rush to like pop another tab?
It's just like mushrooms.
Just like mushrooms. So like afterwards, you're like, I'm good for a while. I don't need to do that again.
It's a very mind-freeing experience for sure, but I would not want to do it every weekend.
Now imagine you were forced to do it 60 days in a row.
It would fuck you up for life. For sure.
Be a drooling puddle on the floor, just like,
Yeah, just like,
I can imagine, just like,
because when you do it, your brain thinks differently, and usually it's a good thing.
for a minute, moments of inspiration are never.
Well, like
bad thing.
like now, I bet you now, because cannabis became legal, I bet you the next or illegal substance to become legal will be psilocybin,
Mushrooms.
magic
100%.
mushrooms.
Well, I think they're talking about that for medical purposes at least.
No,
That's
but
how it started with cannabis.
and that's what I'm saying. I think eventually it'll, even if it's not legalized, it'll be decriminalized, and like you be able to, because there's not a lot of effects really of mushroom. Like if you do like the first time you do it, there is, but if you do it a few times, like I don't feel any effects from it anymore. But that's a whole nother. I just personally think that that'll be the next drug that'll be like, you know what, this actually has a lot of medical properties, and it doesn't really hurt you in small amounts. But hopefully your government doesn't give you 60 doses in a row.
Yeah, doesn't freaking make you eat an entire 6 pounds of magic
Moderation,
mushrooms or
people.
whatever.
Moderation.
Yeah, I can't imagine some of these people go through. I mean, a lot of you if you look it up on the internet, there's plenty of videos of people who claim to be MK Ultra victims or MK Ultra survivors, and if you listen to some of their stories, they're crazy. Not crazy. They're not crazy. Maybe they really
They sound crazy. Yeah, they sound crazy.
They sound pretty. I mean, just the fact of some of the stuff that they went through.
Let's talk about that. So so we have the CIA, 20 years, MK Ultra, and the only reason they really ended it probably is because of public pressure. They burned most of their stuff. Maybe they didn't even burn it. Maybe they just took it out of the office, hid it in a vault away. Because you think when someone's onto new technology or new like ways of thinking, no one just stops, right? I don't think anyone just stopped after 73. We learned everything we could. But probably what they learned is like, God damn, we can make some type of super soldier or some type of like dissociative identity person who doesn't even know they're doing stuff for us with a few code words.
Yeah.
So that was what, 73?
Yeah.
Like, what's been going on since then? Like, what happened after 73? Did they shut down shop and that was all good?
Dude, honestly, they were doing flu shots at work, and I was doing the research of all this shit, and they're like, yeah, they stopped doing this kind of shit at 73, and I'm like, okay. And I'm watching a coworker get a flu shot ahead of me, and I was like, you know what? I don't need that flu shot so bad. I was like, I think I'm good this year. I was like scared. I was like, man, there's no like, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but like they're still doing shit without a doubt. Without a doubt, we just don't know about it.
Well, the flu shot too is like they plan for 3 or 5 strains of flu. That doesn't mean you're not going to get the flu. Like you might just get a different strain. Like, that's a whole different thing. But yeah, let's go down this road. Let's go down a conspiracy road because, that's what I like to do sometimes. MK Ultra ended in 1973. There's been quite a few people recently come out against something called Project Monarch. That's what it is. So Project Monarch is a mind control program, and it was made popular by Kathy O'Brien, and she's got a bunch of videos out, and she's got a bunch of books, but she's pretty much saying she was part of this program, and what this is a continuation of MK Ultra, and it was taken over not necessarily by government, but by like elite and high-ranking members of the Western world, primarily in Hollywood, and possibly even in. Some people make the claim even to like Pizzagate and the elite of the States, but tons of people. It's like, was it Corey Feldman, Elijah Wood? Like all these people are talking about like pedophiles and stuff in Hollywood and entertainment. And what this was, Project Monarch, is a way pretty much for ritualistic abuse of young children to break their minds, like fracture their minds and install this type of mind control in them.
Dude, you're getting into some diddler shit?
Yeah, we're going down there.
I'm just saying, I'm going down Project Monarch. And what Project Monarch is a conspiracy road that goes deep and dark, winding its way through all fucking arms of the conspiracy world into government and in entertainment and everywhere else. But pretty much what it is they take young children, but what they do is they make like a child so there's like people say like Britney Spears, Tara Reid, like other like people who become famous when they're young, become a monarch. It's pretty much they mold you into like a mind control servant of the elite, of the rich people, to like make money for them, really, or perform sex acts and everything. Have you guys ever heard
Lindsay Lohan?
Well, and
I wonder if that's why so many child stars get all fucked up.
Well,
see, I could see that happening to somebody like Lindsay Lohan because she is like certifiably insane now, and maybe she's broken.
Well, what happens with like all these child stars when they're like 27 to 30? If you could search like mind control celebrities, you'll find all these names. I'm not gonna go through the whole list now. Prime example: Britney Spears. Well, when she's 27, 28, she goes through this. What they say is like the fractures in their mind, like it kind of loses hold when you're around the age and you start to go crazy a little bit, and like you can't control like when your one identity is out and when the other one's out. So you've seen like pictures of like Britney Spears when she went bald, shaved her head, she wore a pink wig.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and they call
that was a weird time.
And they call those people.
And she married K-Fed.
Yeah,
super cool white rapper guy.
Yeah, and they call those people like the kittens, right? If you wear it, and that's like a mind control person. It goes back as far as like Marilyn Monroe and like people who are like in the elite company who have been broken, and they probably have a handler. It's all the shit. So Project Monarch is pretty much a continuation, not acknowledged, not yet, other than a bunch of whistleblowers. I was mind controlled as a kid. Like after 30, I got out, and they're blowing the whistle. So this one girl, Kathy O'Brien, she's one of them that says like, listen, this is going on more than you think. So it's just one arm of the end of MK Ultra. Like, what happened to it after all these years? Did the knowledge just dry up and all that stuff they did? It's just like, we don't do that anymore. You can trust us. Or did some people take that out of the government, like out of the CIA and other like government agencies, and just continue on the knowledge? That's the conspiracy. Obviously, it's hard. That one's hard to go down the road because there's not a lot of information available besides some videos. But what do you guys think about that?
Well, man, for me, it's like, okay, I'd not even go the Hollywood side, but we just recently went through all the pedophilia rings, and a lot of the people that are like trying to whistleblow on these pedophile rings, they're like in their 20s and stuff, and they're so fucking drug dependent, and they're fucked up. So if you're like forcing drug dependency on these people, right, and making them so like, to be honest, like if you have a drug addiction, you're trying to say anything like, and someone finds out you have a drug addiction, like it doesn't look good for you. It's not. It's quite the
always negative.
Super negative, right? So if you're forcing addiction and this shit and like fracturing these like children's mind when they're young, right, just fucking them up, making them crazy. So then everyone's like, they're fucking crazy, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to them. That's where my brain was going with. I was like, man, it gives more fuel to all the pedophilia rings you hear about.
Okay, how about this? I'm going to go a little farther. So you know how you hear about like it's satanic pedophilia that's rampant in Hollywood and like Washington D.C. They say, right?
Yeah.
Pizzagate, all this stuff, high-ranking people, pedophilia. They blackmail you when you see a kid, even if you don't do anything to the kid or molest a kid or anything. They take a picture of you. They have you in blackmail, so you can never say anything because if you do, you're outed.
Yeah.
But these rituals, they always involve like Moloch or like Baal or all these like ancient Babylonian or Egyptian gods.
Yeah.
And that is like, that's straight out of Alex Jones's like mouth. Like these people are into like occult, ancient, mind control rituals that pretty much allow them to take over, well, in this case, industries. But if you go back to like the Egyptian Book of the Dead, it describes like torture to the enslaved of the initiate for like pretty much, it describes mind control. And these people are always using like these ancient, like at Bohemian Grove, which we haven't done a case file on, but we've talked about before. They worship this like owl god Moloch and like all these like, these are characters from like thousands of years ago, and they're worship, like not even, they're just like, they're taking part in the same rituals. And the conspiracy is that these people have figured out pretty much how to take over the world through these type of mind controls and controlling like their subordinates through like extreme ritualistic torture, pedophilia, and then blackmailing people in their ring so no one ever outs them. Because as soon as you say something, then you're the pedophile. Then you're out.
Yeah.
Right? Now you're going to jail. Now you let it slip, bud. Sorry. So that's down the conspiracy road. Obviously, it's all alleged. I don't know. But when you see all of the, like, first of all, like celebrities are weird. A lot of the really famous celebrities are weird. They're weird people
all the time,
and they act weird. And sometimes if you want to stop the podcast right now, go on Google and just search celebrity mind control evidence or something like that. And let's watch like people. They'll be on camera. Someone will say like a line from like just like a weird 4 or 5 words in a row that don't really make any sense, but all of a sudden that person just reacts weird. Their stare goes dead. Their mouth goes slack. They don't blink for like 30 seconds. And you're like, what just happened to that person? And all of a sudden they shake their head and they come back like, what? So people are like, the theory is that those words, sometimes said by accident by someone else, trigger the dissociative part of their brain, which is the mind control part. They're waiting for an order, which they never get, so their brain reverts back. That's the theory. But it's
so fucking weird.
It's crazy, man, because this stuff is in the news all the time. Maybe not, you're not going to see it on TV sometimes, but ritualistic occult like practices in the elite of society in the Western world for sure it's there all the time. Pedophilia's in there all the time. I don't know. We're can't go too much farther from MK Ultra that way, but the Monarch mind control, I suggest you look it up because I guarantee that MK Ultra ended in 1973, sure, but like that way of thinking never ended. Like that didn't stop dead.
No,
they've also put a request in for the additional files because when they put those pages up, I think we said it. When they put those pages up for the MK Ultra in 2004, a user on the website of the Black Vault, that's what it's called, he noticed that the pages didn't match up, that some of the sections didn't match up, and that now there's over 4,000 pages missing because they've went back and they've actually requested those. Like I think it was earlier this year. They've put in a request for these missing pages that have been gone,
right? And
they're looking for them. They're like, and the CIA, when they were confronted about why they didn't give it to them or kind of giving the people the runaround, they're like, oh, well, you only asked about the mind altering stuff. You didn't ask about this other stuff. So you didn't specifically request this.
Yeah, it's
so
your fault.
There's a lot of, so there's a lot of stuff.
That's like when you're a kid and someone's like, you want a doll hair? And you're like, a doll? I'll have a doll hair. And they pull your hair and they're like, haha, I said doll hair.
Like, good one, man. Good one.
Why would somebody want doll hair?
Exactly.
Hair?
That's why when you're requesting these, you're like, no, you didn't ask for all of it. You're like, yeah, I did. I wanted it all. You're like, well, no, you said this. So we only gave you that. You're like,
So they definitely play that kind of game where it's like, yeah, we're gonna only give you the stuff that you absolutely requested, and or as we interpreted it, you know. So there's that out there. There's tons of stuff that's probably going on within the government that we know about, and there's probably stuff that goes on within the government that the government doesn't know about. It's all about just having oversight. We have such a huge government, or the U.S. does, and the U.S.
and just
probably Canada
compartmentalize
too. Yeah, there's stuff that gets buried all the time, and nobody's like, you have this stuff that happened in San Francisco. That's what happens when you don't have oversight, you know? So that's why we have all these committees and stuff, and Senate and Congress and things like that. And you can only hope that somebody's keeping track of this stuff. But when you follow the money, it's usually when you find it.
Yeah.
But you just hope somebody is like looking at this stuff and being like, wait, what is this? What did we just spend $80,000 on? A brothel in San Francisco.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, there's some people that were like, "This is the study. This is it. This brothel thing is what we're doing. That's it." And like, they probably weren't privy to all the other shit going on.
Yeah.
There was probably only a handful of people at the top that were like, "Ooh, we got a lot of shit going on, boys. Like, should we rein this in a little?" Nah.
Yeah, it's a trip. This MK Ultra has long. I mean, there's probably a lot of stuff that came out of it that
for
has
sure
been put into enhanced interrogation techniques or things like that. Like, I'm sure that there's stuff that's come out of there that's probably in regular use today, perhaps even in the medical field. Like, because there were plenty of other like big pharma companies that were complicit in this that, you know, also helped with these experiments. So you think that they did this all without taking some stuff home? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I'm going to go down one more theory. We've talked about elite families before, and the conspiracy is these elite families have been controlling the world for a long time, right? And the conspiracy with mind control is these elite families dissociate their own children by abuse, like over the last hundreds of years. And so when like their children are born, they are more prone to be able to like be mind controlled. It's called like epigenetic memory. The theory is, and this is like, I think that's why they call it Project Monarch, is like when a monarch butterfly, it does like something like a 10,000 kilometer migration, right? But that same
it's crazy because those things can't fly worth shit.
That's what I mean. So it takes them so long to get to their destination and then to get back. By the time they get back, it's been 3 generations of that butterfly. So that first butterfly that left is not the same when it comes back. So the same one that comes back has never actually flown where it came from, like migration, right? So that's pretty much epigenetic memory. And the theory is that these occult leaders of the world that, you know, in control of a lot of industries, they've done that to their children, and every time they do it, they're like easier to control.
Or they're like that too, or they're like figured out some way to pass down like all your memories.
In a way, so it's maybe it's easier to relearn that stuff.
Yeah.
Even though you haven't learned it, but it's in there somewhere genetically stored somehow. But they say like, so anyone who's like a child who was molested, like they're prime candidates to be abducted for this kind of stuff. Because okay, there's a lot of abducted children from Canada and the United States every day. I don't know the numbers. I don't know how many are found. But there's theories go around that some of these people are just turned into slaves without them knowing. Like they're gone. Their mind's been changed. Their identity's been changed. They've never been found. So I don't know. That's my conspiracy route for the day. You guys can dwell on it for a while because it's absolutely insane. But it links a lot of stuff together with this like satanic ritual pedophilia and like ritual abuse on children that is definitely going on, because if you type that into Google, you're going to find thousands of cases. Thousands. And that's enough diddler talk for today, but it's fucking diddlers, man. They're fucking rampant. Rampant.
Goddamn diddlers. Fuck.
Diddling.
Fuck.
Fuck. Well, should we start wrapping this one up? I feel like we've been going on for a while.
I get depressed if I talk about these fucking people anymore.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some more fun stuff.
I got some fun stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about our fans.
Any fans in Vancouver? Oh, no, never mind. This is not going to be out before then. I was going to say I got a show in Vancouver on Thursday, but it's not going to be out, so forget about it.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. Check out my band, Lucky Monkey, on all streaming platforms. And
do you have a prolapser of the week?
Give us a follow. I have a prolapser of the week. Zell's prolapser of the week. Two-time prolapser of the week. Two-time. Steven Spencer gave us a big donation. He doesn't want to go on Patreon because he doesn't like the commitment, which is totally fine. So he gave us a big donation, and he gave us a whole plethora of information about climate change. He has a podcast called, it was a hilarious name, Environmental Professionals Postulating. And he took an ode from our name because he loved our show so much. But he gave us a whole bunch of links from, not just like links from Google, like these are professional links from universities about climate change analysis. And obviously he's blown the whistle, and so are thousands of other scientists. And our climate change case file is coming. Because regardless of what you...
It's happening. Because, yeah, it's happening.
Regardless of what you think, if it's man-made or not, it's happening. It is. Stuff is happening. Climate change is always happening, regardless if it's human caused or not. But if you start looking into the science, and sciences are really our best way to really observe the world, even though sometimes conspiracies sound better. He's pretty much saying like, time is now, people. The time is now. We've
known about this for the longest time. We've known about this, and it's coming. This climate change is going to keep going, and we just keep accelerating it. But we're going to talk about it, and it's happening.
It's a good topic. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of BS with climate change. There's a lot of posturing and like trying to push carbon tax on people. And for some reason, our world is always like, hey, let's just, you know how we fix this? We tax it. And that's definitely the wrong way to go about it. But that'll be a whole nother topic. But Steven Spencer, the prolapser of the week. What else we got?
Right on. I got some new 5-star review. This is from Mel Dale from Australia. Wicked podcast, 5-star review. Randomly found this podcast during the drive from Westralia to Tasmania this year. I typed in aliens, and this is what I found. Haven't stopped listening since then. I'm still a scrub, and I'm not a Patreon, but I did buy some merch. Keep it up, guys, and the quality has come a long way. You guys rock. Thanks, Meldale.
Thank you very much. I got one off of Facebook here.
Yep.
Tara Austin recommends Alien Theorist Theorizing, 5-star. This is such a fun podcast. There's always lots of great info. The topics are always interesting, and it's funny as hell. I find myself laughing out loud at work all the time. I highly recommend this podcast if you like aliens, conspiracies, and paranormal stories. Keep up the great work, guys. Thanks, Tara. Legend. Is that it?
Yeah, that's all I got.
I got one more. I'll do one more on Facebook here. We got him. Might as well read them. Charlene Byron. Extraterrestrial life is out there, folks. Seriously, love these dudes and this podcast. A good time and laughs guaranteed. A good time and laughs guaranteed each episode, in my opinion. Recommended to those with a good sense of humor and an open mind. And if you love beer, boom. That's all I got.
Man, everybody says such nice things about us.
Yeah, we haven't got a bad review in a while, but that doesn't mean you should write one.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah,
because if you write one, you're not getting read anyway. We've been down that road. It leads nowhere good.
It was funny when we read 1-star reviews. We got a plethora of 1-star reviews.
Yeah. Yeah. Read one, get 20. Okay, thanks, guys.
Man. I'd rather read the good ones. We read the good ones.
It's true. All right. Well,
Patreon supporters. What do we got?
Oh, shit.
Got a couple new ones. Freewheelin' Seth Cornely, Jacob Cable, Riley Schmidt, Aria Abrego went up. And I think that's it for new ones. We'll leave a couple. We'll read a couple more. Cole Gomez, Tanner Hewitt, Chris Powers, and Tara Austin. And we read her last time, but great name. So Jabba the Slut also. Thank you very much for supporting the podcast.
Still funny.
No ads. All Patreon dollars. Keeping the show going. making us sound a little bit better every month.
You know where to find us. We're on all social medias. Message us. You're getting us. One of us eventually. Just
Someone will eventually get back to you.
if we don't respond right away, shoot us another message. We don't care. We'll eventually get to it.
Pester us. No one cares.
Yeah, we don't care. All good in the hood. Anyways, anything else, Dan? Zell?
No.
As we always
don't
say
do too
on
much
these
acid.
things-
Don't do too much acid.
Yeah, don't
Oh.
drop acid.
No, just a responsible.
A responsible amount.
Responsible amount.
And as we always say at the end of these things, keep those eyes on the skies.